you very much. His Excellency, Indonesian Ambassador for UK, distinguished speakers, all of them are my senior best friends, and fellow Indonesian students in Leeds particularly and UK in general. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning for all of you. First of all, I congratulate to the PPI Leeds and also appreciate for the invitations to be able to come here. And also that we hope that I personally would like to participate as much as possible to contribute for this important workshop or seminar that organized by PPI Leeds. So I just realized among the distinguished speakers in Indonesia, your students are very young, but in Indonesia we don't look whether you graduate from Leeds or from Sheffield or from Oxford, but whether from ITB, from UI, from UGM, M.A.P.E, what is the others? And of course, you introduced me, Rory. Rory is my favorite, but that's Rory McIlroy. So Rory McIlroy is the top golfer, like Rizal also, but Rizal is fans of Rory McIlroy too. So of course I introduced, I'm a graduate from Bandung Stock Technology. That's Pak Rizal Ramli, Dr. Rizal Ramli is my senior. He's the one who deviated me to be an economist. Thank you very much, because as an economist, it's would be like 5 to 10 times multiplier in terms of salary compared to physicists. Although when you come to our room or Rizal Ramli room, you don't see Keynes there, no. The picture, big one, in Rizal Ramli, what is this, office as coordinating minister, or in this private office, similarly in mine, you see first is Einstein instead of Keynes. That's what different with us. And this also Bandung Institute of Technology, and Bambang Susantono is our junior. So we are majority in speakers because only 2 speakers from UI, Rizal Jafar. So, and after all, this is discussions about economics. But we said okay, but they dominated. The governor of Bank Indonesia is a UI graduate. The deputy senior is UI graduate. And I asked, where's UGM? Then chairman of OJK, Financial Service Authority, also UI graduate. But when you look, the first president for Indonesia, you know where come from, right? PP is ITB, usually only military. But of course, with my colleague, Dr. Fadil Hassan said, no, M.A.P.E also. But let's take to get a doctor, a PhD from M.A.P.E, then he become a president. That's then our UGM has a chance to be president, which is Mr. Jokowi. UI hasn't have chance yet. Haven't not yet for 5 presidents, so speaker for the parliament. So Faisal, that's your turn to be president or vice president in 2019. But you know, the best of all is Universitas Pajajaran from Bandung, because you don't have to graduate from the University of Pajajaran. You can drop out, but you can become a president of the and this Mrs. Megawati Soekarno. Anybody from ITB here? From UI? From M.A.P.E? UGM? So number 1 is UI, number 2 is ITB. So after all, ITB and UI is dominated. Sorry for UGM. That's what I'm kind of like going to talk, how important it is, the elites kind of like forming ASEAN in general, Indonesia in particular, to be competitive. And but despite all that things, the positive thing about this graduate is that's what really sad thing is in terms of density, number of graduates, and they who go to prisons, the top one, also ITB graduate. So it's like the top professor from ITB, which is our junior, Rudi Rubiandini, the best students, the best professor, so he's in jail. And then the students leader, Batassi Nababan, also in the prison. It's really sad. So that's Indonesia. And In terms of institutions, you know what? What's the highest top official institution in Indonesia that go to prisons? It's a Bank Indonesia. We have two governors, it's Sadin Sabirin and Burhanuddin Abdullah, and then many of deputy governors. So Rizal Jafara, be careful, it shouldn't be the chance is 40%. And if this bank-centric case, that's why I said to myself, Basri, please don't kind of like go through, because it's advice to KPK, so respected in the or recent economists. Because if this bank-centric case go on, is many others of the central bankers or commercial bankers will go to jail too. This is a good friend of mine, like Harpadi, Muliaman Haddad, because this is tanggung jawab bersama. That's one very important aspect that I'm going to talk about the institutions too. So these are the elements and institutions. But let me start with this kind of like in my short presentations. I think I hope that we will have more discussions. This is kind of like one way of communications. It's a 4 propositions. One, in my view, is that the ASEAN Economic Community, my proposition is a win-win kind of like proposition. I see that way. And then when we see is that global or regional is the integrations of economy. Is that what one of the fundamental force that shape the economy of any country in the world, including Indonesia. So if I may say, it's kind of like, I like very much kind of like, we are intellectual, we are leaders, we just kind of like see how this kind of like the flow of history is running. Or as a religious person, I would say that kemana jubah Tuhan bergerak, where's the flow of God that kind of like move. And then what I see is related to the first proposition is that integrated economy in the regional as well as international, that's kind of like the major force that will kind of like form our economy. So in that sense is that I really see that this still win-win. Although it's many discussions, and I will kind of like discuss later on, that Indonesia in many indicators is like behind. But that's coming to my second proposition. My second proposition is that ASEAN Economic Community is about Indonesia. Because all speakers, His Excellency Ambassador Rizal Jafara and me, and then other speakers later on will see that in terms of populations, in terms of GDP, in terms of other factors, Indonesia is the one who the largest. So it's actually when we talk about Asian Economic Community, it's actually we talk about Indonesia. We talk about the land, we talk about people, you talk about economy, you talk about diversity, you talk about politics. It's all about Indonesia. To be kind of like a strong statement, Asian Economic Community will not be there even ASEAN without Indonesia. So, but that's implications positive and also negative. The positive is of course that Indonesia take a leadership, Indonesia has potential to benefit more of it, and many others kind of like positive things, but negative things, what we heard like Indonesia is just a target of market, and Indonesia is like behind in terms many of indicators to be competitive. But this is my second position, is that ASEAN community is about Indonesia. So when you look there, it's actually, is that really ASEAN economic community is matter. Yeah, it's matter in the sense when we kind of like try to create regional integrated economy to kind of like attract foreign direct investment. But you could see data shows that ASEAN, despite the trade internally among the ASEAN members is increasing, but still our main trade partners are not ASEAN. It's Indonesia main trade partners now is China, and Malaysia similarly too, either they come with China, Japan, US, or European Union. So in that sense, that's why I said in the proposition that I said, it's kind of like not only regional in the sense of ASEAN, but also Asia and the global is kind of really matter, that kind of like really shape the economy of the nations, wherever they are. So, this is what we could see there. Indonesia is at 38 to 40% when you talk about GDP, populations of the land area. But however, when you look kind of like on the, say, side of Indonesia, you talk about competitiveness, Indonesia is usually in the lower, much lower rank. Singapore usually come into number 2, number 1, or sometimes just number 3. Malaysia in the kind of like top 15 at least, Thailand in the top 20. If you look kind of like this kind of like thing is on and on, how Indonesia should kind of like be able to compete there. I'm not going to talk much about manufacturing, let Faisal will talk about that things. But I will kind of like more focus on the economy and also the institutions. So when you look at the financial sector, Pak Reza has talked about the economy. So when you look at kind of like from the negative side, you will say that Indonesia, look at in terms of kind of like stock market capitalization, Indonesia is just kind of like more or less 50%. So if you kind of like open every 50%, which is 50% of it is dominated by foreigners. So if you come to as an economic community, the foreigners will be, usually the foreigners is, now they're not talking about UK or American as the foreigners. The foreigners for Indonesia is Malaysia and Singapore. So like especially in the Bank Indonesia and the OJK. So they really, when they talk about, I'm in the Maybank Foundation, so I'm kind of like more ASEAN than Pak Rizal Jafar. When they come with the name of Maybank, Temasek, they must kind of like a lot of, I'm not scared, but kind of like a lot of negative sentiment compared to Barclays or HSBC and so on. So that's one interesting thing. So when I say foreigners, it's usually ASEAN fellow. So when you look about the kind of like bond market, similarly too, Indonesia is just probably now is what, 20% of GDP. So it's very much debt credit to GDP. When you look there, Thailand is 160%, Malaysia is about 130% of GDP debt credit. And then Vietnam, I'm quite surprised the data showing more than 100%. While Indonesia, that's only about 30 to 35%. When you look from the negative side, so when you open the ASEAN Economic Community, we integrate it into the ASEAN, or the global, to be kind of like more general, who will benefit, we will say that who will be foreigners. But if you see the positive side, that's why I said that my second proposition is that it's all about Indonesia. If we can take most of benefit of it, this is not zero-sum game. It doesn't mean that the foreigners come to Indonesia, like Maybank or what is this, DBS, UOB, OCBC, and so on. They are more aggressive than Barclays, than HSBC. They are more aggressive. Because I will show you that's actually for ASEAN members, especially Singapore, Malaysia, and also Thailand, is they would like to come to Indonesia because they are under the trap. In Malaysia, is a middle income trap. They cannot grow higher than 3-4%. Philippines still grow 7%, but Philippines is small size, only less than 1/3 of Indonesian GDP. Indonesia is very big, so for them, is to be able to grow, is they come to Indonesia. If they come to UK, there's no growth. They cannot compete like Maybank with the Barclays. But Maybank, OCBC, DBS, Temasek, try to, this is Temasek, is Government Investment Bank of Singapore, try to take, I think at that time, Merrill Lynch, they lost money. But when they took a BII, they took Danamon, they made a lot of money. More money than they make compared when they take over, what is this, investment bank or bank in the US. So that's on the positive side, is that who will get benefit? If you can get benefit, also foreign get benefit, that's what I mean, my proposition is about win-win. But of course, if you just look at the negative thing, the foreigners is the one who cannot benefit most than us. So that's what actually our challenge. We are not in the kind of like zero sum. Of course, That's why I don't sit in the right chair, because the PDIP is Indonesia nationalistic. Which surprisingly is also our colleague like Pramono Anu. So when you see it now, I will talk to you later on. It's kind of like the engineer who graduated from our university, not so much from UI, because they work in the kind of like, you know, as an economist, they work in as economists in the financial sector. But you know, it's ITB graduate. It's not in the bank like me, or like Rizal Ramli is economist. But you see more and more in the parliament. Like Abu Rizal Bakri, electrical engineer, chairman of Golkar. Fadil Muhammad is one of the best engineers, chairman of Finances Commission, replacing Insinyur Emil Muiz is from electrical engineering. So more our engineers in the DPR now, parliament. So this is the thing. You kind of like look. We're looking at a more win-win. This is what we're supposed to do in the ASEAN Economic Community. So actually, for us, we will grow as an economy, and also if we are able to kind of like overcome this Gini coefficient, the gap, and so on, and also Indonesian people will benefit it too, and the foreigners will benefit it too. But now, as the mainstream discussions is that when the foreigners, especially the fellow Asians coming, they will kind of like beat us, and they take over our bank, take over our manufacturing, take over our communication, and so on and so forth. It's looking very much in zero-sum game. For me, I just looking at kind of like the win-win situation, because Indonesia, in the term of economic, is not in the Pareto economy yet. It doesn't mean that you come to Indonesia, you do business as this fellow ASEAN especially, or kind of like a foreigner, you benefit, I lose. Not that way. But probably now, it's because of this kind of like democracy things, everything is looking at zero-sum. You win, I lose. That's kind of like not the appropriate way to do things. So you could see here the total asset of the GDP is Malaysia is 350. Asset not only bank but also insurance. Malaysia now is one of the top in the world too in terms of Syariah, whether that's kind of like Syariah banking or Sukuk, which is bond. And Indonesia can catch up too, actually, if we are able to kind of like utilize, because the market is, among others, is largest in Indonesia. So for Indonesia, total asset, financial asset to GDP is only 100%. So it's normally, there should be like about 200% to GDP. Or domestic credit should be like close to 100%. So if we only kind of like, now is the debate, I'll talk to you later on, that now the parliament would like what now become the regulations of Bank Indonesia, of course they're taken over by OJK, Financial Services Authority, that the foreign-owned banks should be limited to 40%. And the parliament would make it a law. But in my view, they shouldn't make it a law. From national economic policy, like, you know, you're kind of like one of the sub-themes is that protected our sovereignty of Indonesia. If you do that way, 40% limited for foreign ownership in the banking sector, well, we want to grow 6-7%. Where do we get the capital? But really interesting here, the question is why Indonesia's credit is only 35% of GDP, while our GDP is close to $1 trillion US. 1,000 trillion US dollar. But why in Singapore, you will be really surprised, especially in the private bank, who actually the main clients there. It's Indonesian. So you could see now, credit growth last year was very low historically, only 11.6%. But normally, if you grow 6%, the credit growth is about 20%. But our third-party fund only grow 13%. It's kind of catching up. The problem is that when the kind of like money coming to the financial sector, especially in the kind of like capital market, bond market is really asking. But a lot of fund manager, Indonesian fund managers said that the foreign money that come into the capital market is not asking but asset. That means that Indonesian money, but they coming to Indonesia to Credit Suisse, JP Morgan, and so on. But that's actually the challenge. We have a lot of money, but then they are not accumulated in our market, not in our institutions. So it's actually the challenge, can this money kind of like use by us for our development, and can we go into kind of like more win-win kind of like situations. This is when you look in the largest bank in ASEAN. Number one is DBS. You could see the asset of DBS, 282 billion US dollar. The largest bank in Indonesia is number 9, only in ASEAN. It's not counted in ASEAN. That is Mandiri, 56 billion. BRI, I think it's BRI now is in terms of asset is in the 2014. This is data in 2013, I think. BRI is larger than Mandiri. So if you look from the negative point of view, pessimistic point of view, look, Mandiri is small. But if you look kind of like from the positive point of view, in the time of 5 to 8 years, Mandiri could overtake Maybank as number 4. I don't sit in the Maybank Foundation. Faisal Basri sit. I sit in the Maybank. I don't sit in the Mandiri Foundation. I think Faisal, no, you don't. I think Darmin. Darmin. I'm sitting in the Maybank Foundation. Of course, like what I said. Remember, my second proposition is about Indonesia. My first proposition is win-win. So don't get up on me. I'm also a senior fellow at the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy. But you're really surprised who financing the Lee Kuan Yew School, especially as a Economic Institute, is Mokhtar Riyadi. So when you come into that institute, it's Mokhtar Riyadi, what is this, proverb in Mandarin. Then one, fortunately, it's good that just lately, I read last week, Mokhtar Riyadi contributed also to the UI or ITB. ITB conglomerate is very much a Bakri conglomerate. When you come to ITB campus, it's for UI is a Mokhtar Riyadi, for ITB it's a Bakri. So they kind of like contribution to it. So this is the thing. So when you look from the positive side, Mandiri BRI, if you consider also BCA as a domestic private bank, in the 5 to 8 years, they could be the top 5 of the largest bank in ASEAN. And remember, for Maybank, they will be able to maintain as the 4th largest bank in ASEAN. They would like to be number 1, but I think it's very difficult to get DBS to OCBC. But for Maybank, what is the strategy to be the top bank in ASEAN? Indonesia, after all. So not only me with Maybank, it's Pak Ahyar Ilyas, former deputy governor, is also in Maybank. And Pak siapa namanya? Eriliana Japamekas, former KPK chairman, is also Maybank. And then my colleague in the Asian Competitive Institute is Sofian Manandi and so on. So they are aggressive in that way. So we are not kind of like balancing them to get a win-win. Of course, they want to get a benefit. But I think this way, this is not a zero-sum game. So what really kind of like do think, when you talk about just, I focus on the financial sector, is that the policy to kind of like restricted Maybank, DBS, or CBC, UOB to Indonesia, CIMB. CIMB is a 35 to 40% of contribution to profit. You don't come from what bank? Anybody knows here? Niaga. Niaga Lipo. CIMB is an investment bank, it's very small. Maybank is like Mandiri for a long time. So without Indonesia, they cannot grow. Because Malaysia is now with 10,000 US dollar per capita, is the middle income sector. Similar to Singapore. Singapore, every time they kind of like take over bank in US, well, I think it's Europe too. Maybank, same thing too. They just not ever making money, they lost money. But Indonesia, they make money. So again, when we want to kind of like, this kind of like thing as an economic community would be win-win propositions, or we kind of like realizing what become the mindset is actually zero-sum game. With the foreigners benefit, we are lost. So we just close our economy. I don't think the second one. I think still the first one to happen. So when you look at, like, I don't concentrate kind of like on the top bank. Just look at the Maybank and the CIMB. When was Maybank founded? It's 1960. When a BNI founded, it's 1946. Mandiri is a formation of the state-owned bank like Bapindo and so on. And they also founded in late 40s after the Indonesian independence. Even BNI is continuation of the Dutch bank. Mandiri just started after the crisis because they formed bank. So what really, that's why I kind of like come to my propositions that the institution is a matter, is that now even Mandiri is lower in terms of asset than M.A.P.E. But why? That's why I kind of like come to the propositions that institutions and elites matter a lot. And from like, I would say the most important thing if you want to be kind of like transition into developed economy. Because we just, you know the favorite dancing in Indonesia, anybody knows that? Exactly, poco-poco. You go 2 steps ahead, 3 steps behind. But the most you can do is to the side, to the side. So look at the bank. BNI was one of the largest in ASEAN in the 70s. Then in 1998, all banks in Indonesia negative net worth. The government has injected that. One of the nationalist policy, my boss is Habibi. We have to go to the IMF, 99% open for foreigners to own bank. And then we injected, that's the largest in the economic development history, about 60% of GDP, 600 trillion up to now, to inject the bank for the capitalization of the bank. Well, Maybank, they just go accumulated since 1960, 1961, and so on and so forth. Similarly, CIMB is crashing, like Kasama, Petronas. Petronas is learned from Indonesia. Everybody knows that. Indonesia, if you kind of like foreign investment in oil and gas in Malaysia, they have to deal with the Petronas because they learn from Indonesia. But now in Indonesia, used to be with Pertamina, but changed to the, saya lupa namanya Pertamina, SSK Migas, sebelum BP Migas, and then to SSK Migas. I don't know what in 2015 because Faisal will tell about that things. So now is you could see now when you watch Formula 1, it's Petronas sponsorships of the Formula 1 for Mercedes. So they put it there. So that's what I said. Come to the third propositions that institution is a matter a lot. The way I look at it, because why is that? Otherwise, you just kind of like tali poco-poco. Not to mention about DBS and so on. They just keep accumulating. Now it's actually the strategy of Singapore. Temasek is kind of an enforcement arm, so they just let DBS, but the BI block, because the BI, they, like what I said, the sentiment is mainly for the ASEAN bank. So DBS are not allowed to take over Danamon. This actually Danamon is also belong to Temasek, because Temasek is not a banking entities. They're not really good in the kind of like developing bank. They're good as an investment arm, investment bank, investment kind of like institution. So they kind of like do that kind of accumulation thing. And then when you look kind of like going into the importance of organizations or institutions in particular, you know, I mean, as a board of trustee Maybank Foundation, every year, I'm just talking about Maybank. I'm talking now is the third proposition where institutions and elites a lot better. Maybank every year, they give a scholarship to the top brain of Malaysia. It's the 25 to 30 who study abroad. UK, United States mainly, and Australia. You know what? How many Petronas? Petronas is about between 25 to 35. And then you look at the Khazanah, is the same thing. I'm not mentioning about a government institution. This is just corporate. Bank Negara Malaysia is the top, like the ITO, also the best graduate going there. Still in Indonesia, also Bank Indonesia, despite this, all the many of the governor and the deputy governors go to jail, but it's not better. It's correct for Indonesia. Stop to go to the Bank Indonesia, including the graduate. So then Kasana, similarly to Tenaga Malaysia, like that. So we just do I just kind of like telling the story. I'm not saying that Malaysia is better than us. No, Indonesia is better than Malaysia. But I just telling how serious in terms of developing the talents and institutions. Now it's M.A.P.E in our evaluation for 2014. Not any single graduate scholars from M.A.P.E foundations go to the top university in UK. The top one is like Imperial College, 3 going to is Chicago University. The top, usually not from Malaysia, if not they're coming from the NM, Bank Negara Malaysia, they're coming from Petronas. So the Petronas and then Hasana, Tenaga Nasional, which is the PLN. Usually the Malaysian student you can ask here, who get the Cambridge or Oxford, they get scholarship from there. So maybe now say that if we just give scholarship, they don't go to the top school, forward. So now as you could see that even among the corporate in Malaysia, they compete each other. They want to get the best talent. That's one. And the second is that for M.A.P.E Foundation, in 2014, about 30 graduates of Indonesia abroad, from UK, from Germany, from US, Australia, and also Netherlands, 30 of them joined the professional program, or what is this, management program. For 9 months, they can join with M.A.P.E, or they don't have to join with the M.A.P.E. Because simply, that they would like to get the best talent in Asia. I'm not telling about Singapore. Singapore is even from the high school. From Indonesia, you could see that what happened is that like scholarship, so I'm really good for this kind of like to hear the scholarship now from the Minister of Finance. But used to be Pak Habibie was criticized heavily, including Dr. Rizal Pamri and Faisal Basir, as my boss strongly, because they sent too many students for the undergraduate and graduate. So then after that, this Habibie is no longer as a president, finished. That's kind of like M.A.P.E president. The scholarship is finished. Then Indonesia is less and less students study abroad compared to Malaysia. I'm not talking about the other thing. Then now we start again. What's the program? PDP. And I knew at that time, one of our colleagues, Hari Azhar, he was the chairman of the Badan Anggaran. They said that it's ridiculous, Indonesia is lost to Malaysia. So they start the program. So that's when I talk about kind of like the institution and the elite is what matter. Look at that in Malaysia, it's kind of like in the politics things. It's usually just not to mention about Malaysian graduate. Now it's like a Petronas, the strategy is this. Usually they used to kind of like protect it only for the Malay, but they realized they just kind of like giving to the Malay, they won't have the best talent. So the Petronas strategy is that they just look at whoever get to Harvard, to Oxford, to Cambridge, usually the Chinese, then after that they offer scholarship. So that's what they do. So in that sense, like in Malaysia, the elite is only take away Anwar Ibrahim because they want to kind of like based on the merit thing. Similarly in Singapore, always when you see this kind of like presidents graduate, they always kind of like become the minister. Every time they come to Indonesia, the first 2 years they're the Minister of Finance, the second is they're Minister of Industry, the kind of like the next 2 years they're the Minister of Education, so they become really leader, and after that they become the MP. In Indonesia, we don't have that kind of like building of institutions and what is this kind of like accumulations of human capital. Usually we fight each other fiercely. When I asked to Abu Rizal Bakri, when kind of like he really hit Sri Mulyani, why do you hit Sri Mulyani so badly? You know, it's after all is one man of us. Simply he said that it's kind of like he's kind of like really blocked me on the way. It's kind of like very personal thing, vested interest to look at that way. We don't realize how lost this kind of like a talent would be. And now when you see the fight in the golf car between Ichal and Agung, I'm really sad because if they kind of like win, it's quite likely Fadil Muhammad is out. I don't worry if Setia Novanto is out. That's what everybody believes. But like something like Fadil Muhammad, Ade Komarudin, it will be out. Similarly at PAN, I just don't understand. Amin Rais is Professor Doctor. Hatta is a graduate from ITB. Can you guys just sit together And then we kind of like always politic, we can make it win-win. No. What I worry is that the who supported for Hatta in the PAN will get kicked out. Derajat Wibowo is out. He's one of our top economists. And Chato is also will be out. So then, when are we going to accumulate? Similarly, if we talk about Minister of Transportation, it's not my choice. It's supposed to be Jokowi's choice, Bambang Susantono. But you are fortunate, you are not from UGM. But close to Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono. When I'm with Paris, I want to help you here because you are too close to Habibie. Because you was in the regime of Abraham Amai. So that's what kind of like what I say is the elite and the institution is the matter. Once we improve a little bit, so we kind of accumulate in human capital and institutions. Don't talk about Malaysia, we can compete to the developed economy. So that's what actually what I would like to say. This, again, when we talk about ASEAN, is that we're talking about Indonesia. But when we look kind of like other really important aspect, we can look from the negative way. This ASEAN economic community will be dominated by kind of like other countries. But we look into kind of like the right way, in my view, we can do it a win-win. But of course, there's requirements. The most important of all is requirements. The way I look at it is that the institutions and the elites, especially the creme de la creme, I don't understand like in Indonesia, Pak Riza and I not become an elite. It's kind of like old now, so we like to golf. In Malaysia, when you play golf, you're elite. You don't have any VIP room any longer. So you just come there, you interact. So when I play golf in Malaysia, this is chairman of Sam Derby, this is chairman of what is this Maybank, this is chairman of Petronas. But when we play golf in Indonesia, you cannot see them because the president director of bank is in the VIP room. Deputy governor of BI in the VIP room. So even the elites, they don't interact. If you go into kind of like wedding party in Malaysia, you only kind of like 300 couple. And you sit there, you meet banker, you meet the politician, then you interact as a gentleman. In Indonesia, not. In the wedding party, Bapak Menteri Koordinator Keuangan Rizal Ramli, silakan panggungan. We are kind of like first pairing waiting. Bapak Ibu sekalian, mohon maaf Bapak Rizal Ramli foto dengan mempelai. Bapak Bambang Susantono, Wakil Menteri, right there. Dan bilang Bapak Bambang, jangan begitu, saya capek nih. That's what we heard. So I just don't understand our island. So we are the one who get kind of like VIP feel that, not to mention but they who kind of like standing. The last wedding party that I attended is one of the PT governors. So then I'm a chairman of Sulawesi Board. They call my name there, and then the other is kind of like director including party, so it's not called by name. They kind of yelling to me, Umar, enak aja lo duluan. That's simple matter, but that's kind of like show how, again, how do we kind of like looking into the elite, the creme de la creme, and the institutionalist matter. We are able to do that. We could come to the propositions, not only ASEAN is about Indonesia, is who is the winner of ASEAN will be Indonesia, and will be a developed economy. That's our dream altogether. That's what kind of like introductions, like we would like to have more into the discussion. So thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.